Hello everyone, welcome back. Today's flow, we are going to get into an expression of a warrior three. So if you know that your modification, the one that you are working on, requires blocks, you might want to have your blocks handy and leave them close to the front of the mat in case you might need them. With the warmer weather that is coming in our area, depending on where you are or where you're practicing, make sure that you have your drink and that you are hydrating and taking the breaks as often as you need. So if you are ready to start our practice today, please start making your way into your comfortable position. How are you going to start your practice today? Is it going to be in a traditional shavasana? Is it going to be a sit position? You might even want to start in a stand position. Choose what is going to help you settle down today. What is going to be the best shape for you to take right now at this moment to try to settle into a little bit of quiet, a little bit of ease to prepare yourself for our flow today. So as you settle into your shape, start to breathe or start to notice your breathing. Notice how your inhale and how your exhale is moving through your body. And just notice how today feels. We know that our practice changes from each time we get to the mat. Every day is a little different. How we feel is a little different. So how do you feel right now? And as always, please don't get into a big discussion or a big argument with yourself. Just take in that information and then let it go. And see if you can concentrate a little bit more on your breathing and a little bit less about those distractions that are around you. And find that rhythm, whatever rhythm it is for you right now. The rhythm of inhaling, the rhythm of exhaling. You might start to notice that little rise or expansion with the inhale. And you might notice the feeling of grounding into the floor with your exhale. You might feel the collapse in your exhale. Just notice even the smallest little shifts here. The rise, the fall, the expansion, the contraction. And see if you can choose just one area that you find a little tighter today in your body. Just choose one and see if you can soften that just a little bit. Don't worry if you cannot soften it completely. Just see if you can slightly ease that body part. Let it soften. And continue your breathing, perhaps noticing how the breathing may have slowed down naturally on its own. And again, don't worry if it hasn't just yet. The more we practice, we might notice we get to that easy breath a little bit more quicker. And yet some of us need a little bit more time. We're all a little different. And we should celebrate that each of us is different every time we come to our mat. So take a few more breaths here. One more full cycle of breath. And then start to invite those little movements to trigger to your body, to trigger to your mind that we are going to move in our flow. And if you are on your back in your traditional Shavasana, make your way up into a sit position, either rocking, rolling, or coming off to one side. And if you are already in a sit position, then continue to make your way into tabletop. And once again, once you come into tabletop, you might notice that you put your hands down and you think that they're ready to go, but you might notice that it just needs a slight adjustment. So find your hands, find your knees, find your feet, and just brace slightly. Try to turn those biceps forward. Think of that elbow crease forward. Try to have a nice neutral spine. Engage that belly slightly, not too much, just enough to support your spine. Take an inhale to open up the collarbone, and with your exhale, let's go right away gently into our downward facing dog. Now in our first downward facing dog, make sure that those knees are bent so that you can get your spine lengthened first, and then depending on how you feel, you might notice that you can lengthen out those legs. Make sure that you don't push yourself into something too soon. Find what feels good for you. And we'll take a few breaths here, just about 3 or 4. So you might even use this downward facing dog to move a little bit. We always talk about those little wiggle jiggles, those little movements that are going to make us feel a little bit better. And then settle in one exhale into your downward facing dog. And then slowly tiptoe your feet up forward toward your hands in a forward fold. Take a full cycle of breath here just to feel the backs of your legs. Feel your spine spill over your head. And then gently roll yourself up. Ragdoll yourself. Unrolling your spine, taking your time, and trying to have your head come up last. And once you get there, you might take a little bit of a movement. You might roll your shoulders a little bit. And then find your mountain pose. Find if you need to take a little bit of shift, a little bit of movement, but make sure that your feet are comfortable for you, and make sure that they are grounded into the floor. So feel sturdy in your feet because we are going to move our upper bodies and I want the feet to support me. I want them to be glued to the ground. So we're going to have a little bit of fun here. And I want you to kind of let go a little bit and don't think so rigid and don't think, oh, I have to look exactly like I don't know what. But we are going to start to fan our arms. We're going to take an inhale to lift the arms up, and then we're just going to drop them with an exhale. Inhale, lift, exhale, lower. And I'm just going to fan my arms up and down. Inhale up, exhale down. And it doesn't matter how fast you are going, it depends on your breath. And let kind of momentum take up a little bit and start to incorporate your knees. Bend and extend. Inhale, lift, exhale, lower. Inhale up, exhale down. And you're going to make a little bit of a breeze here. And you're just going to get a little bit of flexion, extension, a little bit of movement in your body, but not your feet. Your feet are grounded, yes? So let's take a few more. Just keep going. Fan your arms up, let them fall down. Fan up, down. Don't worry what this looks like. Take about 3 or 4 more. Notice your breath. And then with your exhale, fall into a forward fold. And just notice your arms and let them move and dangle in this forward fold. And just kind of notice how your forward fold feels. You might notice that you want a little bit of movement side to side. You might notice that you need to lift and lower a little bit just to see how does your spine react to that movement. Did it like the movement? Did your low back feel good? You can soften the knees here. And just let your breath go. Take an inhale to come up to your flat back. Exhale, fold. Inhale, flat back one more time. Exhale, fold, hands to the floor. See if you can ground them down completely and then step back into your downward facing dog. And once again, figure out if you need some movement. When you stepped back, did you step back into the perfect downward dog spot for you at this moment? Or maybe you need to adjust your feet a little bit. Maybe you need to adjust your hands a little bit. Find your downward dog, and we're going to take about 3 to 4 breaths here. So notice if you need a little bit of movement. Find what works best for you. If that fanning motion that we were just doing maybe changed your breath, maybe it made it faster, let the downward dog here be your rest space. So let your breath come back to a little bit more ease. One more full cycle of breath here in your downward facing dog. And then with your next inhale, right leg up to the sky, and we are going to see if we can step it through into our lunge position. Remember, help it if you need. Find your train track feet. Be supported on your lower body first, your feet into the floor, and then lift your torso. Did you lose balance as you came up, or are you nice and sturdy? Can you lift that torso? Is today a day that the arms can lift? Let's try. We're going to try. Now we are going to fan those arms again, but with a little bit more control. I'm going to come forward and back with my exhale. Inhale up. Exhale down. Inhale up. Exhale down. One more. Inhale up and hold. See if you can settle into your lunge position a little bit better. More comfortable. Inhale here, and with your exhale, hinge forward and move your hands to the back think of runner's lunge. And this is where we're going to try to go up into a very easy warrior three. I'm even going to drag my back foot along the mat, keep the toe on the floor until I get sturdy in my very easy first warrior three, and then maybe lift that back toe. Keep the arms to the back for now to see if you can open up your collarbone. How's the balance? If your balance is poor today, keep the toe lightly on the floor. Try not to sink back into your lunge just yet. Warrior three, easy warrior three. Now, if your hands are facing the back of the mat and you think that you have a little bit more, let's all tap the back toe down first and then see if we can extend those arms forward. Let's make it just a little bit harder. And then see if you can lift that left toe up off the floor. Even if it's 1 or 2 centimeters, maybe it's a little bit more. Do you need your blocks? Are you that close to the floor that blocks might come in handy? I'm still pretty high, so I'm going to keep my warrior three here. And I'm going to see if I can hold for 2 more breaths. You can do it. Oh, hopefully I don't fall over. Keep breathing. Find that spot on the floor. Hands come to the side as the left foot meets the right. Did you land in a good mountain pose? Or do you need to adjust your feet? Shift the weight around, because now the sensation from your left to right most likely feels a little different. One leg feels a little different. So readjust. See if you can find that nice, sturdy mountain pose. Take an inhale here, and as you exhale, fold. Flat back is your inhale. Fold is your exhale. Inhale, flat back. Exhale, hands to the floor. See if you can again get them flat or as close to flat as you can as you step back into your downward facing dog again. So once you stepped back, are you in your perfect downward facing dog position? Or do you notice that you are a little bit too forward, looking a little bit more like a very high plank? So make sure that you are lengthening out your spine, readjusting the feet if you need, and then use that breath to settle into your downward facing dog. About 2 breaths here. Find what works best for you. And then with your next inhale, left leg lifts. And with your exhale, step it through. Remember, if it doesn't quite make it, take your hand and help it along. Bring it into your lunge position. Find stability in your legs first, and then start to lift. As you're lifting, are you sturdy enough that those arms can go straight up into your crescent lunge? Remember, with control here. Exhale, arms swing down. Inhale, lift. Lengthen out that spine, rib cage. Exhale, arms down. Inhale, arms up. One more time. Exhale, down. Inhale, up. Keep up and hold your crescent lunge. Make any little adjustments so that you settle into your crescent lunge a little bit more. Take an inhale, and as you exhale, hinge your body forward. Think runner's lunge. Take the hands to the back. And can you step into a very easy warrior three? Do you need to drag that back foot a little bit? Maybe you need to drag it until that left leg can support you. So don't worry if the toe needs to start on the floor. And then once you're sturdy, start to lift. Watch your hip. Listen to your knees. Listen to your breathing. Do you notice on this side, maybe you can go a little further. Maybe you need to keep the right toe on the floor. What modification of warrior three, think an easy warrior three here, what do you need? And then let's tap that right toe on the floor first to get sturdy. Reach the arms forward and up, and then lift that right toe back up. And see if you can express your warrior three a little bit more. Maybe you cannot. Maybe you need to come back to that toe on the floor, but don't shift your weight back into a very easy crescent lunge. Make sure that the weight is forward. Hold your warrior three, and then right foot meets left. Lift your torso, straighten it up, mountain pose. I'm going to take a little bit of movement here just to see how the sides feel. Left side to right side. How does the hip feel from left to right? Do I need a little bit of movement? Do I need a little wiggle jiggle here? Or have I landed in my mountain pose so sturdy that I'm just enjoying a few breaths here? You decide if you need movement or if you can rest here for 2 more breaths in mountain pose. How do you feel? 1 more breath. If you're feeling up to it, inhale, arms reach up towards the sky. Exhale, dive forward into your fold. Inhale, flat back. Exhale, hands to the floor. Can you step back to your plank this time? If you stepped back and you're not quite in your plank, readjust what you need to readjust. Do you want to stay here in your plank? Do you have enough power? Do you feel strong enough that we can put in a vinyasa here? Remember the different variations of our vinyasa? Choose a modification. Here I go. I'm going to inhale, open up the collarbone. With your exhale, lower down. Inhale into your back bend. And exhale up through tabletop, through plank, into your downward facing dog. Now we're going to rest here for about 5 breaths. Can you rest in downward facing dog? Or do you need to take a different expression? Do you need child's pose? Maybe tabletop. Where can you rest? One more full cycle of breath here. And if you're not in downward facing dog, make your way into downward facing dog. Inhale, right leg up to the sky. Exhale it forward into your lunge position. Inhale up to your crescent lunge. Exhale, settle into that crescent lunge. Inhale, and as you exhale, hinge your torso and arms forward. think runner's lunge, and C, can you shift your weight into that right leg, lifting the back leg right up into your warrior three? If you can just glide up, go ahead. If you cannot, use one fanning of your arms and use a little bit of momentum to lift yourself up into warrior three, like this. I'm gonna fan, 1, 2. Did it help or did it make you lose your balance? Hold your warrior three. This is where maybe those blocks need to come in. Maybe the extended arm is a little bit too much for you. Maybe those blocks will help you. Do what you can. Keep breathing. One more full cycle of breath. Are you wobbling? Take an inhale. Land the left foot, crescent lunge. Exhale, hands frame your front foot. Step back to either down dog, plank, hold your plank, or if you have a little bit more power, here's another vinyasa option. Remember, there's your knees, yes? Use your exhale to lower yourself down. Inhale up into your back bend. And then up through tabletop or plank to your downward facing dog. Do you need a bigger rest in a different in a different modification than downward facing dog? Do you need to catch your breath somewhere else? Or is downward facing dog restful? You decide. How do you feel right now? How's that breathing? Do you need to take an extra breath? Do you need a drink? Are you done? Keep breathing. 2 more cycles to rest. If you're not in downward facing dog, make your way into downward facing dog so that we can try the other side. Let's see what we can do. Inhale, left leg up to the sky. And as you exhale, try to step it through. Remember, help it if you need. I'm going to come up into my lunge, my crescent lunge. And I'm going to settle into my crescent lunge. Take an inhale here. And as you exhale, think runner's lunge. My arms are going to go forward. So we're trying to get into warrior three. Do you need a little bit of help? Do you need to fan those arms once? Or can you just shift your weight and glide yourself forward? With this expression of warrior three, do you want to use your blocks? Do you want to make it an easier expression? Do you want to make it a harder expression? You decide. I'm going to go down onto the blocks. Keep breathing. Keep that left foot sturdy. It's the supporter here. If you cannot breathe, change something so that you can still breathe. Take an inhale. Exhale, land in your crescent lunge. Arms float down to the floor. Step back to where you want to be. Downward facing dog. Plank. You want to hold your plank? Or do you have one last vinyasa in you? Maybe you do, maybe you don't. You decide. I'm going. Exhaling to lower down. Inhaling to go into your back bend. Exhale up to downward facing dog. For one breath, and then lower the knees down and decide which version of child's pose is going to be best for you. Do you want the knees together? Do you want your knees apart? Do you want active arms or do you want to relax? But what I'd like you to do is ease into those hip joints. So maybe a little bit of rocking side to side might help release the tension that you just created in your legs. With that lunge, with that warrior three, which version of child's pose are you going to take for about 3 to 5 breaths? Where can you settle? Which version is going to be best suited for you? Find one that works and then settle in. One more breath here. And then slowly lift yourself out of your child's pose. Shift your weight onto your bum. Swing the legs forward. You might need to readjust where you are because we are going to take a little bit of a forward fold. So I'd like to extend both legs long in front. And again, remember the modifications that you need. If you need to have a soft bend in your knees so that you can extend the spine, then take it. If you notice that you try to flatten out the legs, but it makes you just collapse back into your spine, then choose something else. Find those sit bones, sit nice and tall right into the floor, and notice where you can go to straighten out that spine a little bit more. Think neutral spine, and then extend the legs as straight as you can get them right now. We are going to revisit this, so don't find a deep expression that's uncomfortable. So take that inhale, draw that belly in, lift the spine, and then think collarbone towards the toes as you exhale. Inhale, slightly lift, and then collapse that chest forward again. And one more time. Inhale, lift the torso, lift the chest, and then exhale into the furthest expression right at this moment. Make sure that the hands are touching something, either the floor, maybe your thighs, maybe your knees, maybe your shins. Maybe you can even grab your feet. Don't extend too far. If you're pretty close that you can comfortably and easily grab your feet, then go ahead. Otherwise, just gently fold yourself forward. And you can decide here what you'd like to do for your back. Do you want to try to keep it straighter, or do you want to collapse, think more child's pose back where it's curved? I usually try to go for a straighter back because that's what I'm working on personally. I don't need to encourage more curve in my spine. I actually am trying to find an extension in my spine. So that's my personal preference. One more cycle of breath here. And then lift the torso, release the legs, maybe even kind of give them a little wiggle jiggle. And then we are going to go into a twist. So I am going to keep the left leg long, bend the right knee and plant the foot. And again, find how close the right foot can get into close to your groin, but remember the spine. I don't want it so close that I'm all jammed up here. I'd like to go long spine, find whatever bend works best for you. Think inhale to lift and expand the spine. My left hand can gently go on the right knee here. And with my exhale, I'm going to twist towards that bent knee. And I'm going to maybe use my right hand back here behind me to gently give me 1 or 2 more millimeters. And again, don't try to go so far into your twist that you collapse your spine, collapse everything, your legs and everything. See if you can keep that nice long spine, long left leg, and a gentle twist. Try not to take the majority of the twist from your hands. See if the twist can be in your spine. Maybe even gaze over that right shoulder if it's comfortable for your neck. 1 more full cycle of breath. Bring the gaze back forward, untwist the spine, extend the right leg, maybe give yourself a little wiggle jiggle, and then we go to the other side. So extend the right leg long, bend the left knee, and again, find where it's going to work for you, keeping that spine nice and long. My right hand is gently on that left knee. I'm taking an inhale to lengthen my spine, and then with the exhale, turn to the left towards that bent knee. I can use my left hand back here to gently coax a little bit more, but don't use those hands for the majority of the twist. See if the twist can really come from your spine. Maybe the gaze has to stay forward. Think lengthening the spine with a gentle twist. If you have a little bit more space in your spine, taking that gaze back behind you might be comfortable. Don't push it. Find what shape you can take, but that you can still breathe in. In your twist, if you go too far, you're going to notice that you can't breathe. So that's not a good place to be. Take 1 more full cycle of breath here. Remember, that's an inhale and an exhale. And with your inhale, take the gaze back forward, untwist yourself, and then release that left foot, left leg long. And again, a little bit of movement, a little wiggle jiggle, maybe a little sway from one glute to the other. And we are going to take that forward fold again. And we're going to see, maybe the shape will be slightly different. Maybe the legs can be slightly more straighter. As I take my inhale, nice neutral long spine. And then as I exhale, think collarbone to toes as I come forward. And again, I might need to release a little bit so that I can settle into a deeper forward fold in a sit position. Or maybe my first exhale got me into the best feeling forward fold for me right now. And again, make sure that the hands are grounded onto something. Maybe with this forward fold, you notice that your hands come maybe a little closer to your feet. But is it at the compromise of you just curving your spine? So in our sit forward fold, I'm still looking for a nice length in my legs. So this is a nice hamstring stretch. And I'm definitely looking to get a spinal extension for me. That's what I'm looking to kind of help a little bit. For me, it feels a little bit better. So while I'm doing my hamstrings, I'm also helping my spine to lengthen out. Keep breathing. 2 2 or 3 more cycles of breath here. See if you can soften into this. Don't make it so rigid and tight that you can't breathe. We're trying to lengthen our body, but not so hard that our bodies are going to complain. See if it's a little bit deeper than the first fold that we did. One more full cycle of breath. And then with your inhale, lift the torso however much or however little to release the legs. And before we get back down to the floor in our resting space, do your legs maybe need some sort of movement, some sort of little wiggle jiggle? What is going to maybe release them slightly before you settle into your resting space? What is your resting space going to be? Is it going to be a sit position? Are you going to go into your traditional Shavasana? Where do you want to go right now to finish your practice? What is going to suit you? Maybe you need a little sip of water before you settle into your shape. Remember, we want our shape to be somewhere that we can kind of let go. We want to let go of the work effort, the energy that we just exerted. We kind of want to let that go. We want to maybe take a little bit of an inventory of how we feel. And again, don't get into this huge conversation with yourself. Maybe you feel something in the legs. Maybe you feel something in the arms. Maybe your spine feels a little different. Hopefully, any of these shifts that you feel right now are better shifts. Occasionally, we do notice that our practice puts us in a worser place. I know that's not a real word, but sometimes our practice just doesn't go and we just feel terrible at the end of the practice. So we don't want too many of those, but they will happen on occasion. So even if your practice didn't go the way you thought it should go, just see if you can let go of that in your resting space. And we'll take about 5 breaths. Some of you will take more than 5. Some of you will take less than 5. But just settle in and relax. Without moving just yet, bring your attention back to your breath if you have drifted off. Notice that inhale, notice the rise. Notice the fall in the exhale. Inhaling, rise. Exhaling, fall. And then invite those gentle movements to gently wake up your body. Whatever they are, fingers and toes, maybe a little bit of movement in the head and neck. Maybe you're fluttering your eyes, open and close. Whatever the movement is going to work for you. Take the next 2 or 3 breaths to come into your sit position. If you have been in your sit position from the start, maybe you need to readjust a little bit to get a little bit more comfortable. And once you come to your sit position, take the arms and inhale them up overhead. Bring the palms to meet, and as you exhale, the hands can come down to heart center. They can stay there or continue down into your lap or your knees, whichever is most comfortable for you. As we take one more cleansing breath, a nice big inhale. Let it go in your exhale. We finish our practice here, honoring the light within. Namaste. So hopefully you feel a little bit better. Make sure that you hydrate, especially if you got a little warmed up. And we will see you soon. Bye for now. Please consider subscribing to the channel. It's very easy for you to hit that subscribe button, and it helps me to build this community.